Keely here, who's filming's got a White Girl Club Bangers playlist on his Spotify, which I guess is pretty slick.
Don't wake up.
If you own an Epic E40FX or an E60FX, then you're probably aware that the sound system isn't necessarily bad. It's decent, but if you like extremely good audio, you like to play your music very loud, and you like bass in your music, then you're probably a little upset with the actual audio performance of your Epic FX. Well, I have some very exciting news for you. We just released our new 800 watt plug and play audio upgrade kit for the Epic E40 and E60 FX. And I'm gonna go in a lot more detail here in a sec. What we provide you with our new 800 watt system are 3 plug and play harnesses. So this entire system bolts on and plug and plays in your cart without cutting a single wire. You bolt and plug the new 800 watt amplifier, which then is running your stock speakers instead of the other amp that's in your cart now. And then this also runs this guy, which is our BA Stealth Sub, which, as you can probably guess by looking at it, it produces a level of bass you never freaking thought imaginable in a golf cart. And when you throw all this together with the 800 watt amp now running your speakers, giving them way more volume, way more clarity, and then now running your low end bass with our Stealth Sub, you now have an audio experience in your golf cart that you can only find in a luxury car or a very high dollar custom car audio installation. So in this video, I'm gonna quickly show you guys why exactly all this equipment makes your audio experience that much better in your Epic FX. But then I'm gonna show you guys step by step on how to install this, because it's pretty dang easy. Again, plug and play, bolt on. Takes you about an hour to install the whole thing. So with that being said, let's dive in real fast to what makes this system so special. The first key element of what makes this system so special is that it greatly enhances your factory speakers in your Epic FX. So the Sound Extreme speakers are actually capable of producing a much better sound than they are from the factory on the cart, which is why we threw this guy in. So this is our 800 watt amp that's plug and play with the system. And besides it just running the Stealth Sub, which we'll get into, it's now running your factory speakers in the dash and in the back. And now these speakers produce dang near twice the volume level with the 800 watt amp installed. And they're also way more crisp, way more clear. The second key element is obviously the most fun part of the entire system, which is our bolt-on plug and play BA Stealth Sub. You might see that and have some reservations right away, thinking it's gonna hurt the battery, it's touching the battery, all that. It's not. It's actually bolted to the frame, and we'll provide some pictures for B-roll real fast, showing you it's actually not even touching the battery, it's only bolted down to the frame. What this system does is, yes, it enhances the factory speakers, but the plug and play harnesses and bolt-on 800 watt amplifier runs the Stealth Sub on the rear channel. So now you have bass that did not exist at all before because there was no sub on the Epic FX. The only way to achieve real bass is by having a subwoofer. So this is obviously the most drastic change in the audio experience, because going from no bass at all to an insane level of bass is the biggest difference. And obviously what you will notice, and anybody else around you or any of your passengers will notice, is how much better of an audio experience you have. Also, a quick aside, we do not make subs that kind of produce a little bit of bass. We are a 30-year-old audio video business that became obsessed with golf carts 10 years ago. And we like to do everything to the nth degree. And we are not going to provide you with a sub that does not entirely change your audio experience in your golf cart. So we go to the extreme and provide you with a massive enclosure that's still bolt on and plug and play, but produces a bass level that is just ridiculous. Now, on that same note about crazy bass, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to be pissing all my neighbors off. I don't want to be annoying everybody at the campground. Well, that's why we provide you with a bass knob. So during the installation, I show you how to install it here in the dash. And this is a bass knob. You can turn it all the way down, and now the system has 0 bass like it did before you installed our 800 watt system. And if you want to crank it up while you're absolutely cranking out to your tunes driving down the road, you can crank that bass all the way to the max. But let's say you want a little bit of bass, but not enough to get in trouble. You can just throttle down the knob a little bit, And now you're still enjoying your music, but you're not letting everybody else in the campground or in town know that you're playing your music as loud as possible. And second to last key element is that the function of your touchscreen, the way you listen to your music, whether you're Bluetoothing your phone or you listen to your radio, the function of everything stays exactly the same. You click BT Music, you click radio, and you keep listening to music. There's no change in the function whatsoever besides you now having a bass control to turn your bass up and down. That's the only difference. And last but not least, potentially the best part of the whole system, besides the insane audio performance you now receive, is that everything is bolt on and plug and play. And I mean that as well as I possibly could. Everything bolts directly to the cart. It all plugs into the proprietary connectors in the golf cart as well. You don't need any special tools. You don't need any special wiring skills. You don't need to know how to DIY a sound system in a golf cart. We make it as simple as humanly possible. So with that being said, we're getting ready to do the install here in the video, but if you're interested in shopping for this system to buy it, if you want to see more pictures or more specs, you can click the product below this YouTube video. You can click the link in the description below, or just go to shopbaparts.com, click the Epic FX icon, click whether you own an Epic E40 or an E60, then you will see our products, including the 800-watt system for your Epic, and you can purchase it right there. And obviously, if you have any questions at all before you make the purchase, please give us a call, shoot us an email if you have any questions. We're happy to take care of you guys. But with that being said, let me show you how easy it is to install this 800-watt system in your Epic FX step by step. So when you open your Epic FX 800-watt plug-and-play sound system, out of the box, you will see the following items. BA stealth sub with the subwoofer installed. You will have 3 harnesses, a speaker harness with a sub harness as well, your power harness, then your sub control harness, the plug-and-play bolt-on amplifier, both subwoofer mounts, passenger side, driver side, zip ties, you're provided zip ties, then sound deadening material as well for the center pod where the sub goes. Then if you selected that you have a Gen 3 battery and or your battery does go into sleep mode on your Epic when you haven't used it in a couple days, then you will also receive the Eco battery harness that turns your battery on and off, which means you don't have to hit the physical button on your battery to turn the battery on. Once it goes into sleep mode, we'll install this in the body or in the dash and you'll be able to turn your battery back on. The tools you will need for the installation would be a Phillips bit or Phillips screwdriver on an impact driver. This will be much easier than a screwdriver, but if you don't have one, you can use a Phillips screwdriver. Then a impact or a ratchet wrench with a 15mm socket. Love your life a lot more during this installation if you have a fancy flashlight like so. You will need a drill, and the drill bit you will need for the drill is a 9/32 drill bit. And then you will need a step bit that can do around a 5/8 hole. And you will only need this step bit if you are installing the battery switch. And you will need a 10mm socket, a 7/16 wrench, a 13mm wrench, wire cutters, which we're not cutting wires, we're cutting zip ties, tin snips or scissors to cut our sound dampening material. As far as tools are concerned, that is all you need. So our first step is to tear some of the cart apart so we can run our wiring through and put some of our mounts down. So what we need first is a Phillips bit, and we're gonna take the front insert out and we're gonna take the front body panel off as well. And the way we do that is we Phillips bit, we're gonna remove all these screws from the top of the center pod. What we need to do is there's actually a screw on the bottom side of the center pod holding these panels together. And the only way you can get to that screw is by removing the bolts and nuts that hold the body panel down. So what you need is a 15mm socket and a 13mm wrench. And what we're gonna do is there's 2 bolts and nuts on each side. If you see right here, bolt and nut, 15mm sockets from the bottom side. What we do is we locate the nut, $13mm wrench on top, and then loosen it. Now we actually want to leave the back side bolt Finger tight on the nut, just slightly. So put the nut from the underneath once you've loosened it a fuzz. Once you loosened it completely, I should say, thread the nut back on the bolt just a little bit, because we're gonna tilt the seat back, but we don't want it to completely move. So I barely threaded that nut back on. Now we're gonna completely remove the front bolt from both sides of the cart. So bolt and nut. And what I'm saying when you're barely tightening that, I'm just putting the nut back on and starting it a couple threads, and that's it. So that one is now loose. That way when we flip the seat back, it won't completely move on us. Now the seat should be tilted back like that. And if it makes it easier for you and you do want to remove those bolts entirely and softly lean the seat back, you just gotta be careful you're not ruining and hurting the body panel back here by leaning that. If you want to use a towel or something, but we don't want it to completely lean back. And what we want to do now is, if you need a Phillips bit or a screwdriver, and preferably a long Phillips bit, there's a screw underneath here. If you look through this way, right under here is a screw going towards from the front to the back of the cart. And it's really sneaky. And we're gonna completely remove this screw, and we're actually not gonna put it back in. Either your cutters, or like your Phillips bit, or the screwdriver I forgot to say that you needed, a flathead screwdriver. And what you do now is, there are pins, look through this way towards the cart. There are pins holding the body panels together. Here, way up here, you can't really see really well, and down here. What you gotta do is you push these in and pull out. Again, there's one hidden up here just below the frame. So I'm gonna push on that and pull. And what you do is you push down on the pin as you're pulling. So push down like that and then pull the body panel. You can sit the body panel aside for now. We won't need it for a while. We can finger tighten the sub mounts real fast. We're not ready to install the sub yet, but we can mount those down real fast. First step is, there's always a zip tie right around here with this wiring harness is right here. And this is gonna be in the way of your sub mount. So you wanna cut this zip tie. So we get that out of the way. That way this harness is now more free. There's two sub mounts. One is super tall, and then one is not as tall. And we're gonna take the super tall one right now. What we're gonna do is, our bolt and nut that's not there currently in the center pod, we're gonna finger tighten this one down first. So what we do is we sit this plate, the bend is going this way towards the outside. We're gonna slide this into place, and we're gonna put this down right here. And then we're gonna push the center pod back down into place. Hold it down and finger tighten the bolt and nut. Just finger tightening for now. So now that that one's on there, what you can do is completely remove the back bolt and nut, pull the bolt out. Now we can slide this into place over the hole. And finger tighten this nut. Again, we're just finger tightening stuff right now. We're not getting crazy with tools yet. So passenger side is installed. Now driver's side. Very important stipulation here. These holes on the bottom are larger than the holes that mount to the sub. So if you want to look at actually here, or actually it's this side. Here's our sub. The smaller diameter holes go to the sub. The larger diameter holes will go down in the frame. And we perform the same steps, finger tightening the bolts and nuts on the driver's side of the cart. Sub mounts are good. Center pod is done for the moment. And now it's time to run some wiring. So what we want to do, flip your windshield up and release your trunk, or not trunk, frunk. So I got to grab a fancy bungee cord here. If you want to grab something like a bungee cord or whatnot to hold your lid up, because it'll make your life a lot easier doing this install. Hook that up there. And if you have a cart rack or a clay basket, you'll have bungee cords provided, and you'll just be able to use one of those bungee cords. And if you have a front clay basket, utility basket, you'll have to remove that to do this part of the video. So there's screws on top of the front here. We use our Phillips bit and we remove all these screws. We take our power harness. This will either be blue or red, one of the two. And we have a power harness. And what you want to do is unroll this, roll this out, the 2-pin side of the harness. What we're gonna do, what you wanna do is looking down through to the front. If you look here, right here, there's a bunch of split loom, like 1-inch thick split loom running down the dash from the front down under the cart. We want to run this power harness down to that exact same space. So we're running this, pushing this down. We're running it down by the split loom. Run the excess all the way down there. And then you need about a foot of length left on this. So what we're gonna do is take a zip tie. That way we don't pull the harness all the way through, and zip tie this up so we can't pull it any further through. So get under the cart now, grab your wire cutters and some zip ties. And as you can see, the harness is running down through here, and it's on the back side of the frame cross member right there. And what you want to do now is start running it. You always want to run it above the frame wherever you possibly can. And on this one, what we want to do here is we want to run it alongside here above this split loom. And it's really, really tight actually where exactly the split loom is running. You won't be able to get these big connectors through there. So what you have to do is run it towards the outside of the cart. Once again though, above the frame wherever you possibly can. You never want it to be below the frame. So we're out there, and then we're gonna be on the outside actually. This is gonna be like above where like the step mounts go. And we're gonna run this along there. And then I'm gonna zip tie this harness up as high as possible, all the way alongside the frame. But to show you where you poke the harness up at, right? Again, this is the passenger rear tire. You want to, you can literally see up right now, all the way through the cart. You want to run that harness up through the fender, the gap in the fender. If you look from the top, you can see this is my harness right here. What we're gonna do now, so again, we're above the mounts for the steps, and there's some holes that we can run zip ties through and mount the harness up. So do that right here. As long as you're mounting them as high as possible or zip tying the harness as high as possible, it will not get in the way of the steps. So again, zip tie the front harness against the frame as high as possible, never under the frame. Your power harness is officially ran. Okay, so now we can actually plug this guy in. So we got our harness here, and this 2-pin gray connector plugged into your voltage reducer. This is what you want. You're gonna push the pin down like this and pull it apart. Take our harness and plug it in. Just like so. Then spool up whatever excess you have left. And we're gonna zip tie this up. Now, next steps. We want to remove the center panel from the dash and remove the factory amplifier. There's 3 screws holding this center panel on. 1 deep inside of here, where like the phone pocket's at, and then 2 screws underneath. So you need your Phillips bit. We're gonna remove that one. These. You want to keep your hands on these. You don't want to lose these because we're going to reuse them. I'm going to set them right in this cup holder right there. Then what you do is you pull from the bottom up. If you have the golfing attachment, you pull the golf ball attachment out just by pulling it. It's like that. So you pull out like this and then out. Exposing our wiring. Look inside of here. Don't get discouraged by all this wiring you see. It's actually very simple. There is a hole up in the front of the part of the frame that's running to your amplifier. All this wiring right here is running to the amp inside the frunk. Let me show you inside the frunk where the amp's at. So right here's where the factory amp's at. All this wiring is just running through a little hole right here inside the dash. So what we have to do is unplug all that wiring. Whatever's easiest you can get to right away might be how you want to do it. But you're gonna have a bunch of like white RCA wires like this. You're gonna have a bunch of 2-pin connectors like this. And then you're gonna have one big boy. This is the big power harness. Since we got it in my hand, we'll start with that. So what you wanna use is either your cutters or like a thin screwdriver, flathead screwdriver like this. And you gotta put it where these little teeth are right here. You put this in there and pry. And then pull. And pull out. So now, power connector that's on the amp is now unplugged. Then, we just start going through all these 2-pin connectors and just start unplugging them. Again, make sure these are the 2-pin connectors running to the amp. There's other 2-pin connectors that are not running to the amp. There's 4 2-pin connectors coming out of the amp. That's white, green, red, and blue. So those, I just unplugged those. So 4 white RCA wires. What we want to do now is unplug these. You want to make sure you're pulling on the connectors, not the wiring. Their wiring is not crimped very well inside of this connector right here, and it can sometimes pull off. If you pull it too hard, you'll do exactly what I just did here. By pulling on the wire, it's gonna pull it out of the connector. We will actually be using 2 of these with this system, so make sure you're not ruining any of, at least 2 of those. All right, so now, as we can see, 4 RCAs not plugged in anything. 4 2-pins not plugged in anything. Power harness not plugged in anything. So now this amp is technically completely unplugged. So what we can do now is use our Phillips bit and the amplifier in here. What we want to do is completely remove the 2 bolts on the right side of the amp. So completely remove these. You don't want to lose the bolts, so keep these. So you take both of these out of here. Then we just loosen these 2 bolts. Don't want to completely remove them. The amp has a slotted holes in it to will allow you to remove it. So what you gotta do is push the amp to the left and then it'll pull out. And now, start pulling the wires through that you unplugged. And all that, we no longer need this. But, just to make it very clear, 2 of these white RCAs, there's no labels on them right now. 2 of these white RCAs you will need. So what you want to do is remove the tape from these. 2 of the RCAs, you will no longer need this amp. So now what we need, Phillips bit again, the 2 bolts you removed from the frame, and the new amplifier. So the new amp has slotted holes right here. You're gonna slide that in behind the 2 bolts we left on there, and then tighten down the 2 bolts on the right side of the amp. Make sure you don't have any wiring right in the way here. You know, as long as it's below, like this little white connector, as long as below, we're good. You don't wanna tighten this amp down and crush some wiring and start causing a short. So, take this and slide it on both of those slots. Take your Phillips bit and tighten them down. Tighten all four down. So now the amplifier is installed. Audio harness. So this is the one with a white connector like this. Has 4 2-pin connectors like this. Then it has a sub harness as well. This sub harness will run down the frame just like the power harness did. So if you want to, you can just for now, push this down that way, and we'll worry about running it through the rest of the cart later. Push this down there. Then, if you want to right now, you can do it whenever you want to, but you plug this into the white connector on the right side of the amp. There's a tooth on the one white connector, so plug this in over that tooth. As you can see, it'll bite over the tooth. In other words, you can't plug it upside down, it will not plug in. Then you are left with 4 2-pin connectors. So what we're gonna do is that same spot, all these are the original amp's wiring was ran through, run this towards the dash. Again, don't be discouraged by the wiring you see. We make this extremely simple. All these have labels on them. On the right side, way over here, these are the 2-pin connectors you unplugged earlier. All black and red wires, unplugged, and you'll find them, there's labels on them. 10 speaker front left, 13 speaker rear left, and there's 4 in total. What you want to do is take your new harness you just ran back here, look at the labels on these. So this says 13 rear left speaker. That means we're gonna look for the wire. It's in the dash that says 13, and you're gonna plug it in. Match each connector to its label and plug all 4 of these in. Number 11 goes to number 11. So now that is plugged in, and if you want to, there's a little cavity way down here where the wiring originally was. You can push this right back down in that place. And now, with all this wiring hanging out, you're gonna see other 2-pin connectors you unplugged earlier. These were also plugged into the amp. These wiring connectors will be all kinds of the colors you see, and these will say RR, RL, FL, and FR. These will plug into the other harness we have here in the system. What we want to do now is take our other harness, and this one's actually easier to run from the back to the front. So take the black connector side of the harness. So in other words, the volume control's on the bottom side here. What we want to do is run this through the same slot. Here we are. This will plug in to the black connector on the left side of the amp. Again, this has a tooth on the top of the connector. So look for that tooth there. Look for the tooth on this one, and you plug it in. And then there's rubber gaskets on all these connectors. If you want to, you can cover the connector completely, making it marine grade by keeping water out by covering each one with the gaskets. So like this one, push that over there, then push this over that one, and now it's more protected from water and weather. Locate our harness. Okay, so you will see that there's only 2 pins on this, FR and FL. What you will do is you will take the 4 connectors that are not plugged in anything at the moment, and you need to find FL and FR. So there's FR, FL. They're both shorter than the rears. So these are, you can tell these are much longer. You need FR and FL, and these FL and FR will plug into each other. So FL to FL, FR to FR. Then, this is why we kept the white RCAs. So the white RCAs that you removed earlier, plug these back into these 2-pin connectors. Okay, and then there's RCAs, you will see here, that have labels on them, RR and RL. What you need to do is look at, okay, here's my 1 2-pin connector, it says RR. and here's the RCA plugged into it. We need to plug RR into RR. Then RL needs to be plugged into RL. So this 2-pin says RL, RCA is plugged into it, plug those in. If you have electrical tape on you, it's not a bad idea to tape those 2 RCAs together. That way they don't come off. So I got my electrical tape right here. I'm gonna tape these guys together. That. Like that. So now, everything is plugged in. The only thing we have to do now is install our sub-control. Now, this is totally up to you where you want to install the sub-control. My favorite place is right here in the body panel. And you just have to be cognizant of, we install this where the threads poke through the plastic. So you got to make sure wherever you're drilling a hole, there's enough room for this big volume control on the back side of it to be resting when it's mounted. If you're going to install it, where I'm getting ready to install it here in the dash right here, you got to make sure you've got the wiring ran the proper way. That way it's not going to get in the way of the center panel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this all here. So now I got enough excess there. 9 30-seconds drill bit. 9 30-seconds drill bit. I like to go about, I'd say, 1.5 inches above the little curve here. So let's go like right here, dead center. And drill this hole. Hole is drilled. Now, take your flathead screwdriver. And what we're gonna do is, if you have a baggie of screws on there, you can pull that off if you'd like. Pull the knob off the front. Grab your 10mm wrench. Pull this knob off the front. Then 10mm wrench, you're gonna remove the nut that's on this thread. And there's a washer as well. So remove the washer and the nut. Then what you do here is flathead screwdriver. You're gonna insert this on here. And you're gonna pop the cap off the front of this. Pry slowly around it all. Exposing that part. And I'm gonna cut that zip tied baggie off there because it's annoying. The reason this zip tied screw baggie's on here is if you wanted to, you could screw this up somewhere. You could poke this through somewhere and screw this entire assembly anywhere you'd please through these little mounting holes. That's up to you, but we think the cleanest way to do this is just to poke the thread through, the knob through, and then mount it down. So now that this is on here, what we want to do is poke this thread through this hole. Take our washer and then our nut. Finger tighten those, then take our 10mm wrench, tighten this. Now don't get crazy. It's just a volume control. Use your fingers and get it pretty snug, but don't get crazy with it. That's pretty tight. Now that's good to go. Twist it all the way counterclockwise. Then there's a little notch on the knob showing you where it's at. You want to push that back down where it's at like 7, maybe 8 o'clock. And now that is now installed. Again, make sure you're not pulling real hard on this. These are sitting in a good place. And what we want to do now is push this body panel, dash panel back into place. So how we do that is we make sure you don't have any wiring hanging out. And then push all this down to the right and down. Then there's 3 tabs here. You want to push this way up like this. push it into place. Then we take the 3 screws we took out earlier, Phillips bit, and we mount it back down. Now this can be a little tricky if you want to look in this hole right here. Sometimes this won't line up perfectly. What I do is I push my bit back in there a little bit and I kind of wiggle it around a little bit to make the hole line up better. And then screw it back into place. Tighten these back down. So now the last step is to install this sub, but there's a few things we got to do before we do that. Again, if you added the battery harness to your order, meaning your battery goes to sleep after you don't use your cart for a couple of days. This doesn't mean the cart just shuts off when it sits still for 10 minutes. I'm talking about if your battery shuts off entirely and you got to hold that green button to turn it back on after a day or two, then that means you need this harness. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug this in right now and show you how this plugs in. And then we're going to drill the hole in the body to show you how that works. So there's a little right angle connector and there's a port right here, COM1. You go right here, push that on where the right angle's going down, and you plug that in. Then it's up to you how much excess you want to hear. I'm going to put this switch under the driver's seat. So we don't need a ton of excess. Right there will be more than enough. So I'm going to re-spool this back up and zip tie this. And it's up to you whether you want to use some Dynamat, some sound deadening material. You can, Dynamat this to the battery or down there. It's totally up to you. I probably will put some of it on the battery. This way it's not shaking, rattling, moving when you're driving the cart. And using the sound deadening material is the next step anyways. So I'm going to take a little bit of this. Again, if you get iffy about putting it on the battery, it's totally fine. You can put it on the plastic if you want, but I'm just going to go right here and firmly press it down. Again, if you want to push it down in the plastic of the tub of the battery tray, that's totally up to you. This switch has a tooth. You push back on this and then pull the switch off. So now the whole switch is out. When we are drilling this hole, you want to be very careful because if you go too large, the teeth on this thing is so small. The edge of this is so small that drilling this hole 1/16 of an inch too big will cause problems. So it's good to be smaller than larger and slowly keep drilling the hole larger and larger and larger to make sure it's going to work. Also, if you don't want to install the switch in the body panel and you want to put it in the dash somewhere, that's totally up to you. We're going to put it in the body panel because we like because we've done these on carts before. As a driver, if you hop in the cart and realize it's dead, it's nice to be able to just reach on your leg real fast and turn the battery on instead of reaching around the dash somewhere. But again, it's totally up to you if you want to install it somewhere in the dash. But we're going to put it in the body panel. So I'm going to take my step bit and my drill. And on the driver's side of the body panel, so meaning this tab right here, I'm going to put it right there. Right there looks good. I don't like to leave all the frays spinning on there because it'll slowly scratch your body if you keep doing that. And again, it's good to start small and you just keep working your way up slowly and surely. And we're very close, so I'm just gonna barely screw down. A little bit more. Voila, goes into place. Take the nut it came with. Don't get crazy, you know, get it pretty dang snug. Get to the point where you can't really twist the switch at all. You can use a 19mm wrench to tighten that down, but if you don't have one that big, you can just use a crescent wrench just like we just did. And now that is installed. There's 4 teeth on the bottom of this body panel. What we want to do is cut out short strips. They're about 1 inch wide, under 1 inch wide, I should say, almost like a square. And what we want to do is you want the strips to be about as wide as these teeth. And we're gonna do this and then twist it around. Be very careful. There is very thin, sharp metal inside of these. So you don't wanna run your finger across it because you'll cut the crap out of it. So push it on there. This on here. We wanna add some density to this body panel so it doesn't shake a bunch. With this, and if you want to use more than what we provide, just look for sound dampening material. This stuff does wonders for anything shaking. We've installed quite a few of these, and this is about exactly how much sound dampening material we needed to get rid of any shaking and rattling and body panels vibrating and whatnot. But if you, by chance, have an issue with some body panel still rattling, you can buy some sound dampening material and put it on there. But I just cut these big strips here, so what I'm gonna do now, what we want to do now is make sure the black body panel on the back side is not going to vibrate. I don't want this to be able to vibrate against that even with the screws in it. Right through here, I'm going to push it against the frame. Make sure my screws are lined up when I'm doing this. Push it down like that so it's on the frame, but this will not vibrate a bunch. And then do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to go around that split loom on the frame. And I'm being very tight with this. I'm not leaving a bunch of play. It's on the frame pretty tight and on there pretty tight. Body panel a bunch. Then one last small attempt to keep anything rattling, which by the way, all this we're doing right now is very, very important because it's a lot easier to put it on once and leave it on instead of ripping everything back off because you know it's shaking and rattling. It's good to just overkill this and use every square inch of this thing where you possibly can. That way, once you install it, there's no rattling and shaking. And we have a little bit more left here. What we're gonna do is put this couple strips down where the body panel clicks down into. So I'm gonna cut some thin strips like this. I'm gonna put these down right here. Not above the holes, between the holes. Flat down like that. Right through there, down on. So it's good to have a lot of force on it when you're screwing it all down. Put that on there. Okay, now that very tedious part of the install is done, now it's actually time to install your stealth sub. Make sure our switch is not in the way. What you want to do, take some of the foam that was provided with the kit and cut out, like this. If you just want to leave it like this long, you can. You want to have it as long as the battery, you can. It's right around there. What we're doing is these handles right here can rattle a little bit, and the sub with this foam, this is the 1 inch thick foam that was provided with it. You want to put that in between there. If you have the much thicker foam in yours, you have to cut it down to fuzz. But if you have that foam in there, the 1 inch foam in there, use that right above the battery. And this is, because this actually doesn't rest against the battery at all, but that foam is thick enough where now it's kind of pressing down on the battery with the sub and won't cause any issues, but now it's gonna hold those handles down. Remove the hardware from each side of the stealth sub. We have not ran the sub harness to the center pod yet. So, just like we ran our power harness under there, just like we ran the power harness alongside the factory wiring, we run this sub harness the exact same way. I'm below the brake line, can't be below the brake line. Battery wiring is poking up through the front seat frame. Poked up through that hole, right here's our sub harness. Again, we will zip tie that up. So now what we do, take our sub, the L goes to the driver's side of the cart. So push that down. Take our 1/4-20 bolts and finger start these on each side before we truly bolt this sucker down. So I'm gonna push down and line these up. What I like to do is line this sub up so it's in a perfect line with the front seat. So I got about 1/8 of an inch along this whole gap right there. You can either tighten the bolts on the sub first, then the bolts on the mounts on the frame. It's up to you. I'm gonna use my 7/16 wrench and tighten these to the sub first. You don't wanna get crazy with this. Once it starts to feel like it's pretty tight. Now we need our 15mm socket and 13mm wrench, and we can finish tightening this down to the frame. All officially bolted down. Now the only simple step to actually plug the sub in is take this harness, remove the cap from the harness, pull the cover off here, and plug her in. Zip tie the sub harness alongside the power harness that you ran earlier. One of the very last steps, take your body panel, and if you have the switch on there, let's install that first. Here's a harness to our switch. Make sure you're lining it up with the teeth correctly, because again, this does plug in a specific way. Looks like it needs to be upside down like that, so plug that in there. Then this clip goes underneath. This is gonna be a little frustrating, so just be a little patient with it. And we start tightening these all down. I'd recommend starting the screws that hold the body panels together first. And the two that's on top here, there, and the other side, it's actual screws, not machine screws. It's actually just screws. Push them towards each other, tighten it down. Now, before we start tightening the front body panel down, you wanna make sure it's all inside this seam here. That way when we start actually screwing it down, it's tightening it down properly. Well, technically the system is fully installed. Now, for some of those parts you haven't put back on the cart yet, you can do that now. I'll throw them on real fast and then we'll start testing the system. So assuming your phone's already been connected to your screen before you installed the system, connect your phone, click BT Music. Keely here, who's filming's got a White Girl Club Bangers playlist on his Spotify, which I guess is pretty slick. As long as everything is plugged in correctly, it'll start playing music. With the sub control still turned all the way down, you can crank this real fast and immediately tell how much crisper, louder, clearer these speakers are with the new system installed. The sub control. This sub puts a lot of bass out. So you have the sub control up, and it's up to you how much you want to turn it up. I'm gonna turn it, it's cranked right now. I'm gonna turn it back a notch. So it's at maybe 9 o'clock right now. And now, as I crank this, you'll be able to see the sub really doing its thing. Also, one quick tip. Don't install this system and just start railing on it for an hour straight. If your sub is playing maxed out and you're playing the sub hardcore, railing on the system for an hour when it's brand new, you can blow your sub because it needs to break in. You're more than welcome to turn it up halfway or turn your gain down a fuzz and run the sub, you know, not at full blast for at least an hour when it's new. You want to break the sub in. Once it breaks in, it'll actually produce even better bass than it is brand new. Then your seat, just as it did before, hooks into the hooks and drops right over the sub. If you ran into something during your installation of the FX 800 watt system on your E40 or your E60 FX, please call us, contact us, email us, text us. Please let us know what you ran into during your installation. We're happy to help. We work on these carts, sell these carts, and obviously build these systems night and day. So we are pretty equipped to help you guys out with whatever problems you might have ran into that you maybe didn't see addressed here. Also, if you just finished the installation and you installed it on your cart, thank you so much for supporting us. Everybody here at BA Parts really appreciates you. So thank you for that. Also, if you want to see more product videos like this, see more of our accessories we're coming out with for Epics, click that subscribe button here on YouTube. We got a lot more in the works that is coming soon. I'm gonna stop talking and let you guys enjoy your now rockin' sound system and your Epic E40 FX. Once again, thank you guys for watching and thank you for supporting BA Carts.